Stories a little bit later on, but for now, let's catch up with Palesa, who's a guest for us.
Peter, thank you so much. The Foundation for Human Rights will hold a two-day capacity building training workshop for health forensic nurses, doctors, the South African Police Service, National Prosecuting Authority, as well as the civil society organizations who are focusing on gender-based violence. The key themes will revolve around inter alia legislation, securing that gender-based violence crime scene and a collection of relevant forensic evidence leading to prosecution. We speak to Sarah Motha, who's Vulnerable Groups Manager, and she joins me now live. Good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for coming through.
Thank you, Palesa, and greetings to the listeners at home.
Yeah, I believe this is quite an interesting one. I mean, given the developments that we've been seeing, the cases that have been reported on gender-based violence recently.
Indeed, South Africa has the highest level of gender-based violence in the whole world, and the country with the highest level of inequality. Certainly, this calls upon all stakeholders to come together and find a solution. And correctly, you mentioned that this training brings together civil society organizations and a range of institutions that are supposed to be taking account to the issue of gender-based violence.
All right, that was my next question. Who is invited to this training?
We have put together in the same room the National Prosecution Authority officials, the South African Police Services, legal aid officials, the civil society organizations, and the forensic nurses and doctors who are in charge in examining survivors of gender-based violence.
I think it's quite interesting because part of what concerns many gender-based violence victims is the justice system.
We found that through our work that impunity is a huge problem, where perpetrators will commit these crimes and they will go freely even after cases have been reported. What we are saying in the same space is that even if neighbors are hearing somebody crying, calling out for help, or if physical evidence of bruises, external injuries should be sufficient enough, even if the victim does not speak for herself, should be sufficient enough.
I mean, I think that was justice. The recent argument with the Mampinja and the Babes Wodumo video, people saying that there is the evidence, it's there on the video, and yet the justice system waits for, or rather waits on the victim to go lay charges.
Certainly, that's my point. Yet we know that in other countries, if you have such basic evidence, then it's sufficient to bring to justice the perpetrator. Hence, in this room, where all those that are responsible and those that civil society or its victims have to account to provide, support in terms of protection, they have to be in the same room to interact, and cases that are coming out immediately being taken care of, and those that have been left hanging be followed up.
Because I wanted to understand really the structure of this workshop. I know that you've been to other provinces before. In fact, this is the second, you're coming to Gauteng for the second time now.
We designed the program in 2018 and started with Gauteng, where we merged with the Northwest, and we went through all the provinces, and there was a need for Gauteng to do a repeat based on the population of Gauteng being the highest in the country. So the idea is to reach all the service points and communities where we couldn't be present in the previous workshop. So ideally for this workshop is to reinforce and capacitate, but also call upon municipalities, for example, to avail services such as shelters for survivors of gender-based violence and sexual violence, which normally majority are women and children, that every municipality must be able to have a safe house for the victims of such abuses.
Let's talk about the contributions really that have been coming from the different provinces as you were traveling. What are the victims saying on this issue, and those that are supposed to be accountable, what are they saying? How are they responding to this crisis?
There's mainly two issues victims are saying. They say that there's no follow-up in the cases that they report, and secondly, that even if they've reported, the perpetrators continue to be out at large and continuing to perpetrate the same crimes. The positive response we're getting, which is, I mean, through the senior Major General of SABC, Brigadier Linda, is to direct those cases to him, who has been instrumental in coordinating all the provinces to participate. So those cases are taken up to the highest level, which shows us that cooperation which comes, or political will which comes at a high level, assists in ensuring that justice is served. So these cases are taken immediately in the same space and then followed up, and justice in that manner gets served.
But just in conclusion, do you think this battle is ever going to be won? I mean, you were part of the gender-based violence towards the end, the summit which took place towards the end of last year, and we've heard really harrowing stories from the victims. Are we ever going to win this battle?
If we did manage to win the battle against apartheid, we are going to win. In fact, the foundation funded the Gender Summit, which shows also that we are committed as the Foundation for Human Rights to ensure that the agenda for stopping violence against women and children in the country comes to an end by coordinating the sector and the institutions that are in charge to ensure that justice is served for these marginalized groups.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through. That's where we'll leave it for today. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.